I was becoming increasingly alarmed listening to my prime minister call me a racist and say that I shouldn't be tolerated. I found his rhetoric to be incredibly divisive, and I'm a believer that if you are a leader of a country, you have to lead all of your people, even if you don't agree with them.
Some pretty powerful words coming from Tamara Lich there, one of the, I guess you could say, key organizers in the Freedom Convoy, amongst many, many other people. Obviously, the inquiry into the Emergencies Act is still going on here in Canada with regards to what happened during the Freedom Convoy and how this Emergencies Act was used. Number of interviews, investigations, and testimonies have been given. But I want to kind of play out this full Tamara Lich clip and then follow up with a few key questions and reflections.
Because I was seeing families torn apart. The suicides in my hometown were so numerous that they stopped reporting them. Elderly people were dying by themselves in long-term care facilities and saying goodbye over iPads. My grandma is 94 years old, and she was locked in her little apartment by herself for 2 years. And now that she can go out and do things, she's not healthy enough. She lost 2 years of her life. My father is, I'm so sorry.
Take your time.
My father is a very social man. He is the Coffee Row, Saskatchewan father. And I remember him telling me one day that he went down to the local restaurant that he went to every single day. And these are small towns where everybody knows everybody, and he was asked to leave. And I didn't want my children and my grandchildren to live in a world like that. I was becoming increasingly alarmed listening to my prime minister call me a racist and say that I shouldn't be tolerated. I found his rhetoric to be incredibly divisive, and I'm a believer that if you are a leader of a country, you have to lead all of your people, even if you don't agree with them. And I just saw so much. Coming across Canada every day, I heard stories. People, at least 3 people would tell me they were planning their suicides until we started the convoy. Or stories of people that we were too late. I heard from families that were living in their vehicles because they'd lost their jobs. I heard from people that had lost their jobs and lost everything. I have the tears of thousands of Canadians on my shoulder who every day told me that we were bringing them hope.
So let's set aside what we think we know of the people involved in the Freedom Convoy, because I know this video is more so intended for people who thought that the Freedom Convoy individuals were some crazy, racist, terrible people. I spent, a lot of days there, and our team here at The Pulse spent probably in total about 24 days on the ground. And I can tell you that virtually everything you were told by mainstream media, by government, about what was happening at the Freedom Convoy was a complete misrepresentation. I'm not going to say they completely lied to you and that they, were giving you completely false facts. They were telling you 0.5% of the story or less, and making and shaping your opinion to follow a political perspective that would protect Justin Trudeau and what he was doing. So really asking yourself the question, where did I learn what I knew or what I thought I knew about the people at the Freedom Convoy and about what they were doing? Where did I get that from? Mainstream media, right? And how much time did you actually spend examining high quality sources of alternative media, or even going down to the Freedom Convoy yourself and seeing what was really going on? Why do we think there's such a massive disparity between the different perspectives of what happened on the Freedom Convoy? Is it that people are really that polarized, or is it that what the mainstream media was saying and what was actually happening were two very, very, very different things. So as you kind of give yourself a moment to reflect a little bit on why do I even believe what I believe about the Freedom Convoy, just think about what she's pointing out here. When was the last time you thought it was okay for a leader of a country to call his own citizens racist and extremists because they were asking questions about important things that now at this stage of the game, we're realizing the vast majority of the questions that these people were asking were very valid. And in fact, most of the positions that people who were involved in that Freedom Convoy, we've learned are actual facts and actual truths, and that the government and health agencies were misleading us in many ways. And if you're not sure what those facts are, just scroll through our channel. You'll see a number of different pieces where we examine the ways in which the government has misled people about anything from vaccines to masks to lockdowns over the past little while, and why it was very important to question these things, why it was very reasonable to question them. But when is it okay to be a leader of a country or to be mainstream media who is attacking constantly people without ever really addressing what it is that they're actually saying? Instead of saying, okay, hey, you know, here's the great questions that you have, here are the facts. They just called them names. Why have we come to think that that's okay? Why have we come to think that that's normal? Did we learn that now here we are, that it was a good idea to let so many elderly people just die alone, as Tamara points out? Did we learn that, you know, it was a good idea that we took as aggressive of measures? We now see it's very clearly that, hey, you know what? We probably made a lot of mistakes during the course of COVID-19. And there was a lot of people trying to say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's re-examine this. And government responded with a heavy hand of, shut up, and you're an extremist, and you're a racist. Where are we now? Because we have an opportunity to learn. We have an opportunity to think differently. We have an opportunity to even apologize to the people that were treated so poorly over the course of, you know, this pandemic. And are we going to look within ourselves and say, hey, you know what? Should I have changed my perspective? Should I have been more open? Should I have been a little bit more reflective on what was happening, as opposed to just kind of falling into this, listening to whatever government said and whatever mainstream media said? Today, it's about the Freedom Convoy. Tomorrow, it could be about a completely different issue that you care about. But if we allow government and we allow media to steamroll anybody who has a different perspective and turn an entire public against these people, if we allow them to do that here, we're going to allow them to do that later on when it's something that you care about. So I think at the end of the day, you know, what we're seeing here is a massive decline in our culture, massive decline in the quality of individuals that have been in politics, let's just say for decades, realistically. And how I think it's important for us to ultimately question within ourselves whether we want this type of a world to continue, whether we want to continue allowing our leaders to talk to people in this manner and to make decisions that are so unbelievably destructive without really holding them to account. That's it. That's all.